So I know I said that Sonic Chronicles was next up on the docket at the end of the last video, but unfortunately I ran into an issue where my 2DS capture card just seemingly died on me. My capture software wouldn't pick up a signal no matter what I did, whether it was change the settings, reinstall the drivers, different USB ports, nothing. Not a damn thing was working. Unfortunately, my research through online forums didn't really land me any results that helped. From what I was able to gather, however, the branded capture card I got that came pre-installed with the 2DS is apparently prone to short lifespans, and it would seem, for now at least, that I caught that unfortunate demise. I was about 4 hours deep into my Sonic Chronicles playthrough when it happened too, so that really sucked. As of right now, that video is going to have to settle on the back burner until I can find means to play the game again comfortably. I want to avoid emulating that game in particular due to its weird control scheme. But enough about the rambling, and thankfully, despite the circumstances of how we ended up here, I already had plans in the works to look at not only this game, but also the whole franchise, considering that it's celebrating its 40th anniversary this year. Kid Icarus originally released all the way back in 1986. Over the next few videos, I want to spend time looking at the NES original, the sequel released for the indestructible brick that was the OG Game Boy with Myths and Monsters, and the beloved 3DS classic Kid Icarus Uprising. Jumping ahead here, I know I just said that my capture card is presumably dead, so how do I plan on looking at Uprising, you might be wondering, and I have an idea, but I'll say that for when we actually get to that game. But for now, let's focus on the original NES release. And I'll be playing it off the Nintendo Switch NES Classics library, as the game is available there for those who have an online membership. And I'll be doing the exact same thing for Myths and Monsters, as I recently discovered that that game was also made available on the Game Boy Classics lineup. Ain't that convenient? So what is this Kid Icarus all about? Released back in 1986 in Japan, with Europe and America seeing it released during 1987, this game would be developed by Nintendo R&D 1, a development team who were also responsible for the original Metroid released in the same year as Kid Icarus, and even the famous Game Boy, along with many other noticeable achievements. The lead designer would be one Toru Osawa, who at the start of the project was the only one working on it, as most of R&D 1 were busy working on the upcoming debut of Metroid. But once the team was done with that, most of them were brought over to begin working on Kid Icarus, which had a projected Japan release date of December 19th, 1986. And reading that the team worked serious overtime using cardboard boxes as makeshift beds, curtains as blankets to deal with the winter cold in an office space that had no heating, holy shit, that sounds miserable. The game would finish development and production began just 3 days before that targeted release date. As a result, a lot of content that was planned for the game would end up going unused as a result of them trying to meet the deadline. I'm not sure if that unused content would be used for the eventual Myths and Monsters, but I do wonder just what the game would be like if it had more time to cook and add in more stages and whatever else they had planned. Like many NES games of its time, the story is rather simplistic and almost non-existent in the game itself, unless you have the manual, which I do not. So I'm using the internet here to catch me up to speed. The Goddess of Darkness Medusa, after being banished to the Underworld by the Goddess of Light Palutena, would work with the monsters of the Underworld to launch a surprise attack. During that, she would steal the 3 sacred treasures, take Palutena as a prisoner, but not before the Goddess of Light would bestow a bow and arrow to a young angel named Pit. I've got nothing for this. There's a joke I can make, but I'm not clever enough to think of one, so why did I write this here? Anyway, as Pit, your mission is to travel through various locales, defeat the boss holding a piece of the sacred MacGuffins, shoot Medusa the Kingdom Come, and get things back to normal before the weekend. And on a fresh playthrough, you can finish this game in about 2 to 3 hours if my total session recording time is anything to go by. Because it was so short, I decided to give the game a second run, and I managed to finish it in under 2 hours, but I'll explain why later in the video. Despite the short length, this game can be quite difficult at times. Sure, it's an NES game, so this shouldn't come as a shock, but honestly guys, what I find strange is this game is only really hard in the first world. As soon as you enter World 2, the game's difficulty just dries off a cliff. Like, what I end up dying to more often is likely just the do-or-die platform the game has you do throughout the entire adventure. Pit has all the characteristics I'd expect from a game of this era. I find his movement speed to be rather comfortable, but I find his jump to be a little herky-jerk at times. Pit has some influence over his jump, but that requires me to hold down the opposite direction in order to turn around, but that it's not immediate, which tends to throw me off. Pit also tends to slide around like he's got butter under his sandals, and that can really bite you in the ass when the game throws platforms with ice physics on top of his slipperiness. Take my advice, just as you're about to land, tap in the opposite direction you're going. It'll completely kill all the momentum you got so you can avoid dying like a fool. Or you can ride that momentum on an icy surface and jump right before he lands, which for some reason catapults me to my death. Thanks, dumbass. Despite the quirks, it does feel good to play as this flightless angel, and yes, I said flightless angel because Pit, despite having a perfectly fine pair of wings on his back, he can't use them for some reason. I don't know if there's an in-game reason for why, and I can't recall if Uprising mentions it. Does Myths and Monsters explain it? I actually never played that one. I guess I'll find out soon enough. But yeah, until the final stage where Pit uses the 3 sacred boxes to gear up for the final fight, it's like those wings are purely for decoration. Between the 3 worlds, Pit will travel in a side-scroller either vertically in World 1 and 3's case, or a traditional left to right like World 2. I'm not sure why, but I found the vertical ones to be more interesting, but maybe that's because they aren't what I usually expect from a 2D platforming game for the NES. Scattered throughout the stages are these doors that lead to a variety of locations. It can be one of many shops that I think have a set of items, but it's random what items get showcased when you walk in. I say I think, because I tried reloading a save state to confirm this, and I honestly couldn't tell if the items were determined as soon as I walk in. But there's also the incredibly expensive black market, which I never really bothered to buy anything here because holy fuck these prices. There's these rooms where a swarm of these nose-like creatures show up and move all over the damn place, but it's a fantastic source of hearts, this game's currency. Or the roulette game where you shoot these bags to see what you get, either a big heart worth 10 hearts, or a hammer for the world's dungeon. But if you get a Reaper, you forfeit all items. Thankfully with save states, if I find the Reaper, I'll just reload the save state and ignore it to get all the goodies. Alright, so this is a Snow from the Future moment coming in here to let you guys know there is a room that I forgot to mention in this section of the video. And that's the hot springs. These are basically healing spots that Pit can use to restore his HP. And yeah, that's about it. I don't know how I forgot to mention these because these are kind of like, I think the most important rooms to remember because they appear in all 3 games. The other rooms, I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if the Sacred Trials come back in Myths and Monsters. I'm not sure if the shops are a thing in Myths and Monsters. I think they are. I know for a fact they're not in Uprising, unless I'm misremembering that too. I don't know. I'm rambling now. Hot springs are important. Make sure you look for them, especially when you're in dungeons. You'll thank me later. Anyway, back to the video. Finally, there are the 2 rooms that offer Pit a strength upgrade or one of the many sacred trials for one of 3 power-ups, like the protective crystal that gives Pit a shield that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, the sacred bow which allows its arrow to actually cross the entire screen, and finally the fire arrows, which I have no idea what they actually do. Do they expand the hitboxes? Do they increase my damage further? It was hard to tell honestly at times. Regardless, the power-ups in this game are all neat in their own way, and just nice to have, not at all mandatory to beat the game unless you want the best ending. More on that in a moment. But the real struggle is the process of getting these power-ups, as in order to obtain them, you need to survive the sacred trial given to you by Zeus. And all he does is spam these bathroom tiles at you, they move fast, they spawn in random locations, they move in random directions, and it feels like it takes forever for them to end. I recall a way to cheese these without taking a hit, but either I'm finally at the point in my life where I'm losing my mind, or I, for the life of me, couldn't remember how to do it, so my first few attempts at this were just hell. But going back to what I said about how this game's difficulty just falls off the face of the earth, that's a result of Pit getting permanent health extensions when he reaches a certain threshold of points. These health extensions make doing these sacred trials much easier because of your larger health pool. You'll need these health extensions because that is ultimately what breaks this game's difficulty in half as early as the first health extension. This will not prevent you from dying a lot, but at the very least it makes the journey less difficult, especially if you get the strength upgrades alongside it. This game does have a new game plus style loop. Once the adventure is over, you can replay the game again, complete with all the upgrades you obtained during the previous run, making repeat playthroughs go by faster and allow you to get any upgrades you may have missed with ease. There are different variations of the ending dependent on the upgrades you have. In order to receive the best ending, you need to have gotten every health extension, every strength upgrade, have all 3 power-ups in your inventory, and have 999 hearts before you reach Medusa.
Everybody got that?
I honestly don't know what to really say about the enemies in this game. Most of the time I'm just running away because the worst they can do is just come into contact with Pit to do damage. But the most noble ones are likely the Reapers and the fucking eggplant wizards. Reapers don't do anything, they wander back and forth, they occasionally turn around for a microsecond to see if they're being stalked, and if they see you, they freak the fuck out and summon baby Reapers to attack you. Look at them, it's like you caught them with their pants down, they're just embarrassed. But the eggplant wizards are just as harmless as the rest of the enemies, most of the time. They attack you by chucking magical eggplants, and if they come into contact with you, they turn you into a little fucking eggplant. Alright then. And in this game, in order to be free of your unfortunate vegetable problem, you have to locate a hospital in the dungeon you're in. Until you do that, you can't do jack shit other than walk and jump. I won't begin to question how Pit can climb ladders despite clearly not having arms while stuck like this, but then again he's also an angel who can't fly, so I guess it evens out. And even the bosses are a total joke, especially if you want out of your way to collect hammers, which you can use in the world's dungeon on these angel statues that will summon up to 3 at a time to assist Pit in taking down the boss. The two-headed Cerberus knock off Twin Bells, who I just love for the design alone. I know it's a basic-ass reason to like a boss, but trust me, he's also the most interesting of the 3 bosses. Hydra, oh right, this isn't Uprising yet, so it's just a one-headed sea serpent here, but he doesn't do anything, honestly. He just bounces around. It's pretty easy as long as you're careful. Just be careful after you defeat him. Despite the lava changing colors to look like a hot spring, trust me when I say that shit ain't a fucking hot spring. Finally, there is Pandora, who honestly is just plain boring and takes forever too, because I don't know if it's the game fucking with me or the hit detection of Pit's arrows are whack as shit, but sometimes I can hit her, sometimes I can't. I know her going invisible is, you know, a phase where I can't really damage her, but even when she's not in this state, or even when she is in that state actually, I can sometimes still hit her and sometimes I can't. I don't know, the game is weird like this. Honestly, the only thing I wrote in my notes for Pandora, besides that she's terrible in this game, is that she moves around like that screensaver from like the DVD screensaver. You guys know which one I'm talking about? The one that, you know, never hits the corner most of the time, but when it does. But after defeating Pandora, you get all 3 sacred treasures, and it's off to give Medusa a good old arrow to the eye. Eventually. In order to face her, you first need to go through this painful auto-scroller level that loops until you've defeated 50 enemies. And that's where you'll probably get a little frustrated, because Pit, despite controlling just fine through the entirety of this game up until now moves like he's carrying a 2-ton fucking weight. I'm going to assume that the MacGuffins you get weigh that much because holy shit. But color me impressed that Pit doesn't just fall like a rock, but my man is gonna feel incredibly sore the next morning. Maybe this is why the series went into hibernation for 20 years after the next game. But yeah, this final stage sucks. Gradius, this is not. You know, I kind of wish these angel statues that we whack with hammers came to help Pit during this final stage. Actually, no, that's probably a horrible idea. This game tends to suffer from an extremely bad case of slowdown every once in a while if too many things happen on screen at the same time, so maybe this was like a SNES title? Maybe it could work? I have no idea. I wrote this part of the script after an 8-hour shift in my day job running on 5 hours of sleep and a cup of coffee, so don't listen to my ideas right now. With enough arrows to the eye, Medusa is defeated, Palutena is rescued, peace has been restored, and as the final piece of dialogue reads, Pit's struggles will continue. I mean, if his struggles are in the void that the franchise is currently in right now, well, they ain't wrong, I guess. Now, aside from some jank that is to be expected because of that development cycle, I still found this to be a very enjoyable ride. Between the 3 games, both this and Uprising I have the most memories with, and as I said earlier in the video, I never played the Game Boy title, nor have I really heard anyone talk about this, and a part of me is wondering why that is. Is Myths and Monsters the reason the series fell into limbo the first time, or is this potentially a hidden gem that I just never thought to take a look at until now? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. And if I'm not mistaken, I think for the first time on this channel, the name of the series Backlog Reviews will actually be appropriate going to the next game. I've known about this one for a long time and I never really bothered to play it. So at last, I'm finally going to get a chance to sit down and actually give it a go. I'm going to go ahead and start working on that video now. Feel free to check out all the other videos I got, you know, wherever you want to look. I don't really care. And if you're at all interested, of course, as well. Until then, see you guys next time. Take care.